Hi, friends. Today, I want to share a new story with you. I hope you enjoy it. It was one of those nights where everything felt tense, like something important was about to happen. I had just finished giving the board our quarterly report. They clapped, but it didn't feel real. It felt like they were just being polite. I couldn't stop thinking about how people always cheered and praised Claire so loudly. She wasn't there that night, but somehow, she was always around, in people's comments, in their comparisons. When I got back to my apartment, my chest felt tight. The living room was dark except for the light from my phone buzzing on the counter. 3 missed calls from Mom. Just seeing that made me feel sick. "Bella, call me back when you can," her voicemail said. Her voice was cold, like I worked for her. "Claire's getting another award this Friday. We'd like you to come. She's worked so hard, it would mean a lot." No mention of my report. No good job. Just Claire. Always Claire. I threw the phone on the couch and opened a bottle of wine. As I sipped, the room felt even darker. Childhood memories came back. Claire getting claps at piano shows while I sat in silence. Her grades celebrated while mine were barely noticed. The phone rang again, snapping me out of it. I answered. "Bella?" Mom's voice was sharp. "Why haven't you called back? You can't ignore your family." "Family obligations," I repeated softly, feeling bitter. "Like how you ignored my big presentation?" "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said. "Claire's award is more important. Analyst of the Year isn't just any award." I gripped my glass tightly. "And what about my work? Doesn't that count?" "Bella, you're always so emotional. Of course we're proud of you, but Claire's success is bigger." Then she went quiet, waiting for me to argue. But I didn't. What was the point? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Claire's perfect smile, hearing her laughter during family dinners, when I barely got a word in. It wasn't just jealousy, it was the pain of never feeling like I mattered. The next morning, while driving to work, there was an accident. Tires screeched. There was a loud crash. Pain shot through me as my car slammed into the barrier. After that, everything was a blur, yelling paramedics, flashing lights, and the cold smell of the hospital. I woke up after surgery. My chest hurt, not just from the injury, but from being alone. A nurse handed me my phone. I hoped to see messages from my family. There was nothing. No text from Mom, no call from Dad, not even a message from Claire. Later, I heard nurses talking. "Isn't her family coming?" one asked. "They said they had to go to some event," another whispered. I looked away, fighting tears. My parents chose Claire's award night over being with me in the hospital after a car crash. For the first time ever, I didn't just feel hurt, I felt angry. Sunlight came through the window the next morning. I sat in bed, playing with a loose thread on my blanket. My body still ached, but not as much as my heart. The TV in the corner was on. The news anchor spoke clearly as I stared at the screen, my mind drifting. "Breaking news, Clare Burke, a top investment analyst, has been arrested this morning in connection to a major embezzlement case." I froze, gripping the blanket tighter. Charges include stealing from company accounts, lying on records, and insider trading. My stomach turned. The screen showed a blurry photo of Claire in handcuffs, being led to a police car. Just then, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it. It was Mom. "Hello?" I said, my voice rough. "Bella," she shouted, sounding scared like I'd never heard before. "Have you seen the news? It's Claire. They arrested her." "This feels like a nightmare," I said calmly, even though my heart was racing. "You have to help," Mom said quickly, rushing her words. "We talked to a lawyer, but this is costing way more than we thought. Claire's legal fees, it's a huge amount." I stared at the phone, shocked she even asked. "And what does that have to do with me?" There was a pause. "Well, we thought, you have savings, Bella. Maybe you could help, just until things are sorted. Claire really needs us right now." I let out a bitter laugh. "You want me to give up my savings to help the sister you've always worshipped? The same sister you celebrated with while I was in a hospital bed?" "Bella, don't make this about you," she said sharply, like she was scolding me. "Claire has always supported the family." "Supported?" I cut in, raising my voice. "You've always handed everything to her and left me with whatever was left over, and now you expect me to rescue her? You didn't even check on me after my accident." There was silence. "We didn't mean to hurt you," Mom said after a long pause, her voice quieter. But the words felt empty. "This is serious. If Claire ends up in jail, it'll destroy her life." "And what about mine, Mom?" I asked quietly. She hung up. I stared at the phone, emotions swirling, anger, sadness, disbelief. I looked back at the TV. The anchor was listing the charges against Claire. 4 years. She had always seemed untouchable, but now, seeing her face on the screen, accused and exposed, was the first time I'd seen her not in control. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to help her. The room was quiet as I sat at the dining table, staring at an envelope that had been slipped under my door that morning. No return address, just my name, written in messy handwriting. Something about it felt strange. I usually didn't dig into things like this, but I couldn't ignore it. My hand shook a little as I opened it with a knife and pulled out a few papers. At first, it looked like financial records. As I flipped through, my breath caught. The numbers were huge, millions taken from Claire's company, each document signed by her. Then, I found something worse. Emails, printed copies, they described shady deals, and my parents were mentioned. Not just mentioned, they knew about it. They might have helped. I leaned back, feeling dizzy. Could this be real? Were Mom and Dad involved all along? A knock at the door made me jump. It was my neighbor, Lena. "Hey, Bella," she said, peeking in. Her eyes landed on the table. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I waved her in, my voice shaking. "Lena, I think I found something really big." She stepped inside, shutting the door behind her, eyes scanning the papers. "What is all this?" "Proof," I said, handing her one of the emails. "Claire didn't do this alone. My parents, they knew. They might have even helped her." Lena's eyes went wide as she read. "This is serious, Bella. What are you going to do?" I didn't know what to say. My mind was a mess, betrayed, angry, confused. How could they do this to me? After all the years of praising Claire, treating her like the perfect child, this was what they were hiding. Before I could speak, my phone buzzed loudly on the table. It was Dad calling. My stomach twisted. "Aren't you going to answer?" Lena asked. I shook my head. "Not yet." The call went to voicemail, and I picked up one of the emails again, reading it carefully. It was from Claire to an important person at her company, planning how to take money from smaller clients. It was cold, calculated. At the end, a note read, "Mom and Dad agree this is the best plan. They'll stay quiet if we stick to it." I felt my heart break. Not only had they ignored me for years, but they had also been part of something awful. Lena spoke up. "Bella, you can't just ignore this. You have to act." I looked up at her, feeling the weight of the decision. If I tell the authorities, it'll ruin them. Claire, my parents, everything. "And if you don't?" Lena said, pushing me. "It'll destroy you too. You've always been in their shadow. Do you want to carry their guilt forever?" Her words hit me hard. She was right. I gathered the papers, my mind made up. "I need to make a call," I said, reaching for my phone. Lena nodded. "Good." I dialed the authorities, my hands shaking, but not from fear. This time, it was from determination. I sat in the back of a cab, clutching the manila folder with the evidence. The city lights blurred outside the window, but my thoughts were sharp. I had a meeting with the authorities, but I wasn't sure which was worse, turning in the evidence or facing the fallout. As we neared the precinct, my phone buzzed again. It was Mom. I ignored it, but the voicemail notification popped up. "Bella," her voice crackled. "We need to talk. Claire's situation is getting worse. We need your help. Please call me back." I shoved the phone into my pocket, feeling angry and exhausted. Family, they used that word like a weapon to control me. Inside the precinct, the lights were bright. Detective Harris, a calm, sharp-eyed man, greeted me. "Miss Burke," he said, motioning for me to follow. "You've got something for us?" I slid the folder across the desk. "It's all here. Financial records, emails, everything showing Claire and my parents were part of an embezzlement scheme." Harris looked through the papers. "This is solid, but are you ready for what comes next? This is going to be big, public. It could get ugly." I swallowed my doubts. I've lived my whole life in their shadow. It's time to step out. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Dad. I silenced it, the weight of my decision sinking in. When I got home, the confrontation I feared was already waiting. A loud knock at the door froze me in place. I knew who it was. Mom and Dad stormed in, angry and desperate. "Bella," Mom hissed, "what are you doing? We've been trying to reach you all day. You turned Claire in, didn't you?" Dad's voice was harsh. "You betrayed the family." I stood tall. "I did. I gave them everything. Mom's face twisted with disbelief. How could you do this to us? I've done what's right, I shot back. For once in my life, I'm not cleaning up Claire's mess, or yours. Dad stepped closer, threatening. You'll regret this, Bella, you don't know what you've done. Maybe not, I said, meeting his gaze, but I'm done living in fear. You can't control me anymore. They stood in silence, shock and anger on their faces. For the first time, I felt free from their control. Get out, I said firmly, pointing to the door, and don't come back. Mom opened her mouth to protest, but Dad grabbed her arm and pulled her out without another word. As the door slammed shut, I sank into the couch, my heart racing. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, it was mine. The next morning, I sat on my bed, staring at the packed suitcase by the door. The apartment felt lighter, as if the weight of years of neglect and lies had lifted. But the message from the investigator still lingered in my mind. We've uncovered more. Meet me this morning at the coffee shop. It's urgent. I arrived early at the cafe, looking around nervously. Jonathan Hayes, the investigator, sat at a corner table. He motioned for me to sit. Bella, he greeted me, we need to talk. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. Your parents were deeper in the scheme than we thought. They funneled millions into offshore accounts, under your name. I gasped. What do you mean? They set you up to take the fall if it all went wrong. I stared at the papers, my mind racing. No, they wouldn't. But even as I said it, I knew they would. Later that evening, I stood in my parents' living room, holding the documents tightly. They looked up from the couch, shifting from fake surprise to quiet annoyance. What's this? Mom asked, her voice cold. You know exactly what it is, I said, keeping my voice steady. You tried to ruin me to save yourselves. Dad leaned back, smirking. Stop being dramatic. We've always done what's best for the family. For the family, or for Claire? I shot back. Mom stood up, her face red with anger. Claire's success keeps us going. You wouldn't understand. I laughed bitterly. No, I wouldn't, because I've never been part of this family, have I? I was just the backup plan. I turned and walked out the door, for the last time, leaving them to face the consequences of their actions. A week later, the authorities arrested my parents at the airport as they tried to leave the country. Months later, I stood in the doorway of my new office at a nonprofit. I looked at a photo on my desk, taken the day I moved into my apartment, a picture of me smiling under a clear blue sky. For the first time, I felt completely free. What do you think of this story? Let me know in the comments. Want more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button to stay updated. See you tomorrow.